I love to see this tent filled so beautifully. I'm grateful for everyone who has come tonight for this Youthful Voices concert and the family concert that follows. We are here for a magical time. For those of you who are in the tent for the first time tonight, who's here for the first time tonight? Yippee-dippy-doo. Okay. We are grateful. We are the Florida Storytelling Association putting on this festival with the hands of many volunteers who have put together this festival. Also with the gracious donations of private donations, community donations, the McLynn Grant, the Lakeside Inn, the Chamber of Commerce, all here to support this night and this whole festival. So, we have in store some absolute magic coming. Now, we want to start it with a little, I'm going to sing a line and you're going to sing it right back to me. Are you ready? It's a test. You'll tell a story. And I'll tell a story. And we'll tell a story together. You'll tell a story. And I'll tell a story. In the warm or wintry weather. Beautiful singing, thank you. I just want to open with a quote before we bring the most fabulous kids in the universe up on this stage. Yeah, let's hear it for them. You adults in here, you know how you shake in the boots when you have to do any kind of public speaking? Okay, these kids have guts and gumption. They know how to do it. So, bringing focus to invite the stories into the room so that you can have this beautiful evening. Your time on earth is limited. Don't try to age with grace. Age with mischief and a good story to tell. Starting us off tonight on this magical adventure of the Youthful Voices storytelling. This is a scholarship program that was gifted to us so that these children could be perpetually coming on the stage. We received 28 videos from around the state. We could only choose 6 children. It was hard. We thank the teachers at Ivy Hahn, Domerick Elementary, Modern Schoolhouse. Let's see, what else did I forget? Tampa Hillsborough Library. Yeah, okay, what one? 3 Oaks Elementary, for providing the opportunity for these children to turn in their videos into practice. First storyteller tonight from Ivy Hahn Elementary is Lily, and she loves to play characters.
Hi, my name is Lillian Baldwin, and I will be performing The True Story of the 3 Little Pigs by John Skeniza. Now, everybody knows the story of the 3 Little Pigs, or at least they think they do. But I'll let you on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story because no one's ever heard my side of the story. I'm Wolf, Alexander T. Wolf. You can call me Al. I don't know how this whole big bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. Maybe it's because of our diet. Hey, it's not my fault wolves eat cute little animals like sheeps and pigs and bunnies. that's just the way we are. If cheeseburgers were cute, folks would probably think you were big and bad too. But anyways, like I was saying, the whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong. The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. This is the real story. Once upon a time, I was making a birthday cake for my dear old granny. I had a terrible sneezing cold, and I ran out of sugar. So I walked down the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar. Now, this neighbor was a pig, and he wasn't too bright either. He had built his house out of straw. Can you believe it? I mean, like, who in the right mind would build a house out of straw? So, of course, the minute I knocked on the door, I fell right in. I didn't want to just walk into someone else's house, so I called, "Mr. Pig, Mr. Pig, are you in?" No one answered. I was about to go home until I felt my nose started to itch. I huffed and I snuffed, and well, achoo! I sneezed a great sneeze. And you know what? That whole darn straw house fell down. And right in the middle was the first little pig. Dead as a doornail. He'd been home the whole time. No, it felt like a perfectly good waste to leave a perfectly good ham dinner just lying there. So I ate him up. Think of it as just a big cheeseburger just lying there. I was feeling a little bit better, but I still didn't have that cup of sugar. So I went to the next house. Now, this was the first little pig's brother. He was a little smarter, but not much. He had built his house out of sticks. I rang the bell to the stick house. No one answered. I called, "Mr. Pig, Mr. Pig, are you in?" He yelled, "You can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin." I just grabbed the doorknob when I felt another sneeze coming on. I huffed and I snuffed, and while I tried to cover my mouth, I sneezed once again. And you're not gonna believe it. This guy's house fell down just like his brother's. When the dust cleared, there was a second little pig. Dead as a doornail. Wolf's honor. Now, you know food will spoil if you just leave it out in the open. So I did the only thing there was to do. I had dinner again. Think of it as a second helping. I was getting awfully full, but I still didn't have that cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. So I went to the next house. Now, this was the first and second little pig's brother. He must have been the brains of the family. He had built his house out of bricks. I knocked on the brick house. No one answered. I called, "Mr. Pig, Mr. Pig, are you in?" And do you know what that rude little porker answered? "Get out of here, Wolf, and don't bother me again." Talk about impolite. He probably had a whole sack full of sugar and wanted to give me one little cup. What a pig. I was just about to go home and maybe make a nice birthday card instead of cake when I felt my nose started to itch. Once again. I huffed and I snuffed, and well, achoo! I sneezed once again. I sneezed once again. The third little pig yelled, "And your granny can sit on a pin." Now, I'm usually a pretty calm fellow, but when someone talks about my granny like that, I go a little crazy. So when the cops arrive, of course I was trying to break down the pig's door, and the whole time I was huffing and snuffing and making a real scene. The rest, they say, is history. The news reporters found out about the 2 pigs I had for dinner. They figured a sick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound very exciting, so they jazzed up the whole story with all the huff and puff and blow your house down nonsense. And they made me the big bad wolf. That's the real story. I was framed. Hey, but maybe you could lend me a cup of sugar?
Awesome. How did you like that? This is what we're talking about. More to come. Peyton Kuhn lives in Fort Myers, 3 Oaks, and her teacher, Patty, and other storytellers in that area helped to coach the children. That teacher started a new storytelling club there. But she is a member of the drama club and Rhoda Kids, and she does a lot of service in her community. Let's welcome Peyton Kuhn to the stage.
Hi, I'm Peyton, and I'm going to tell you the story of the fox and the crow. Once upon a time, on a bright sunny day, there lived a fox. And this fox was hungry. Even imagining food would make his stomach grumble. So he set off to get some food. On his way, he met a crow. And this crow had a big, juicy piece of cheese in her mouth. And the fox wanted it. So he thought how he could get it. Because he knew he couldn't climb up the tree, because then he would just fall down. So he thought, And he thought, And he thought some more, Until he came up with a trick that he could use. The trick he was going to use was flattery. So he called up in his sweetest voice, "Oh, Mrs. Crow," and said, "Your feathers, they're so black and shiny, you must be the most elegant bird in the sky." And the crow thought, "Why, that's so nice of him to say." And the fox continued and said, "And your wings, they are so beautiful, and they must be strong. You must outsoar any eagle in the sky." And the crow was just on the verge of exploding, but she kept herself content. And that's when the fox said one of the nicest things he's ever said in all his flattery experience. He said, "And I've heard from so many animals, I can't even count, that you have the best voice in all the land." And that's when the crow just exploded with pride and started to sing, "Caw-caw, caw-caw." And that's when the cheese popped out of her mouth into the fox's, and with cheese between his teeth and his tail wagging, he said, "Why don't you keep your pride next time, and maybe you'll keep your food." So he trotted away happily. And that's when the crow realized she learned a hard lesson that day. Beware of flattery, especially when someone wants something from you.
Fables are a wonderful way to start storytelling and to learn how to tell stories. They're short, they are sweet, and you can have fun with all of the characters. With that, there's more to come. Some of our storytellers are authors. And our next storyteller loves to write stories. She goes to the Modern Schoolhouse. She's 11 years old, and she is a performer in musicals, loves to draw, writes her own stories, and she cares for animals. Marley Porter. Is this good for you, sweetie?
My story takes place in a town called Stingleberry with a character named Bobson. Bobson was the type you would say wasn't the sharpest knife in the box. He was smart, but not smart enough to pass first grade. So for the past 20 years, he's been in the same classroom with the same teacher and the same questions asked again and again. On the first day of first grade, Bobson was walking in his classroom getting ready for all the weird questions to be asked. He opened the door, and there all the kids were there, lined up, ready for answering their questions. "Why is your hair so funny?" "'Cause I do it a certain way." "Why are you so tall?" "'Cause I'm 42. "Why is your foot so big?" Bobson froze. He didn't know that answer. It was new. I don't know. That's all he said. When school got out and all the kids were walking home, he was too. He was walking up the steep village and realized, why was my foot so big? He looked down at his foot and saw the smoothest, roundest, most perfect pebble Bobson had ever seen. He kicked it. Click, clack, clish. That's the sound it made. Click, clack, clish. He kept kicking it, and it kept making that noise until he got hungry. Still kicking the pebble, he walked all the way to the gas station, bought 2 big churros, and ate those 2 big churros in 2 bites each with his big hulking muscles. He kept kicking his pebble, but then he accidentally tripped on a rock, and his other foot went flying and kicked the pebble, and it went all the way into the woods, and he started freaking out. He didn't want anything to happen to his pebble. This was the only thing in life that mattered. So he ran as fast as he could, faster than in PE, when his teacher wants him to run like really fast, and saw his pebble. He was so happy, but then he stared eye to eye with the fox, and the fox sniffed the pebble, then licked the pebble, then opened its mouth like it was going to eat the pebble, and Bobson screamed like a little girl. He didn't want anything to happen to his pebble, and the fox got scared away, and he gave that pebble a big kick. It went flying all the way to the first side of a rainbow. Bobson ran as fast as he could again, and then he saw it. It rolled in this yellow gold stardust, and then stopped at the feet of a tiny little leprechaun. The leprechaun picked it up, sniffed it, looked at it weird, and then chucked it behind him in a big pot of gold. When the leprechaun went away, Bobson walked over and picked up each and every piece and shined it on his shirt, shined it on his shorts, shined it on his shoe, and if it wasn't his, he chucked it again. Finally, after what felt like 5 hours, but was really only 5 minutes, he found his pebble, put it on the ground, and gave it a big kick. This time, it landed on the other side of the rainbow. Bobson started getting really excited. He had always wondered what was at the end of the rainbow. So he started walking, then skipping, then running, and then his jaw dropped, theoretically and actually. Because he saw the most perfect, I mean jaw-dropping, I mean stunning, I mean gorgeous trees. He saw trees. And as he was looking at these trees and thought he was going to cry, he saw his pebble. He smiled again, big, 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 and then kicked his pebble. Click, clack, clish. He kept kicking it and then thought about his question. Why was his foot so big? And then he finally knew. Why was his foot so big? He ran as fast as he could, still kicking the pebble, to the school and banged on their doors as hard as he could. I know the answer to my question. I know the answer to my question. But then he saw the sign. It was closed. So he went to all of his friends' houses and banged on their doors as hard as he could. I know the answer to my question. I know the answer to my question. When they opened their door, he said this. I know the answer to my question. My foot is so big, so I can kick pebbles.
How's that for a young writer with a little twist at the end of her story? Awesome. Well, our next storyteller comes from a family of storytellers. So he has learned it by his grandma's knee. He is wonderful boy in 8th grade at Geneva Classical Academy in Lakeland, Florida. And he has a wonderful talent of playing the guitar, running cross. He's been running every day since he got here. And he enjoys some video games, but he's also written this story. And I want to invite Mitchell Yancey to the stage. How's this?
There's nothing like calming your nerves with playing a jaw harp. Well, my name is Mitchell Yancey, and I wrote this story, and it's called Cold Eyes. Have you ever heard the idiom, curiosity kills the cat? Yes. Well, there are two boys, twin brothers actually, Ted and Bill. And the thing about Ted is he was really smart, and he was good with the books. He was a little short, and he had blue circular glasses. And his brother Bill, he was really strong, he was tall, and he was good with the ladies. Well, every summer, the two brothers went to the grandparents' house, and they loved it. They had the time of their lives, because the thing is, they had no rules, 0 rules. They could stay up as late as they wanted, eat as much dessert as they wanted, play outside all day, no homework. It was the best. Well, one night at their grandparents' house, the two boys were talking, and Ted was saying, I love this place, there's no rules. And Bill was saying, yeah, it's just the best, isn't it? Well, there's that one rule. Ted said, oh yeah. And the rule was strange. It was, don't look out the window past dark. And they'd never questioned the rule, because Grandma told them, so it goes. They thought about it, and let's just go to bed. They were tired, it was late, so they went to bed. And the next day, they got their cereal, they ate it, they went out and played. They played pretend, they played on the creek, and all day they were thinking. Curiosity was gnawing at their brain. What happens if I look out the window past dark? Well, night came, they had dinner, and the two boys got into their beds, and they're talking with each other. Ted said, hey, Bill, I've been thinking all day, what happens if we look out that window? And Bill said, to be honest, I've been thinking the same thing. Ted said, you know what? We're big boys now. We should look out it tonight. Bill said, that's a good idea. You know what? But let's wait for Grandma and Grandpa to go to bed so we make sure we don't get in any trouble. So they waited around 2 hours. It was around 9 o'clock. And Ted said to Bill, all right, Bill, you ready? Go open the window. And Bill started laughing. Me open the window? It was your idea. Ted rolled his eyes and he said, you know what? I'll do it. So we got to the window, and he opened the curtain, and he looked out. And he didn't see anything. It was too dark. So he said, hey, Bill, hand me a flashlight. And Bill handed him a flashlight. They both got up to the window. They unlatched it, lifted it up, and they looked out. Turned on the flashlight and looked out. He didn't see anything at first, and then suddenly, he saw something. He saw 2 reflections, no, 2 eyes. But they weren't eyes of a savage animal. They were eyes, 7 feet high, cold eyes. Ted was immediately terrified, and he grabbed the curtain and closed it, and they both jumped in their beds and they just closed their eyes and tried to fall asleep. Finally, morning came. And in the morning, the boys got their cereal, and they were eating. And Grandpa knew something was off. And they went in their bedroom, and they started talking. Hey, Grandpa, yeah? You've noticed that the boys are acting off, haven't you? Yeah, I have. Normally they would be playing and fussing, but not right now. They're quiet. Grandma thought. Oh, I got it. They're just homesick. I used to be homesick at my grandparents' house all the time. And Grandpa said, that's it. You know what? We'll send the boys out to play, and they can come back at dinner time. And that's exactly what they did. They told the boys, go outside, go play, and come back before dinner. And the boys, they were kind of glad with that because they wanted to go outside, but they were just too scared to go themselves. Well, they tried to play pretend, tried to go to the creek, but something just felt off. The house had a weird aura around it. They didn't know what they saw. They thought, you know what? Let's just go for a walk. They went out for a walk, and Ted, he's a lot smarter than Bill. So he would point things out. Hey, Bill, look at that. It's a bird. Hey, Bill, look at that. It's a plant. And he would explain things to him. And Bill, he would pretend to listen, but really, he was thinking about the love of his life, Mary Jane. Well, the two boys were walking for a while, and Bill, he stopped walking, and he said, hey, Ted, it's getting kind of late. We should probably head back. And Ted agreed. So the two boys turned around and started walking home. And as they were walking home, the sun got lower in the sky, and the boys got faster, and the sun got lower, and the boys got even faster. It got to the point where the boys were running as fast as they could, sprinting towards the house, and it was pitch black. And normally they would have their flashlights on, but the house was in the distance. They could see the light coming off of it. So they thought, you know what? Let's just run there in the dark. And Bill, he's faster than Ted, right? So he was running ahead of Ted. And as Ted was running, he heard something strange behind him. He heard a set of footsteps. And it was strange. It made him curious. What is that behind me? He thought, you know what? I'll just look. So he stopped running. He pulled out his flashlight, he turned it on, and he slowly looked around. And he didn't know what to expect to see, but he did not expect to see eyes. But not eyes of a savage animal, but eyes 7 feet high, cold eyes. Before he could run away, he dropped his flashlight. Bill was still running. He was running as fast as he could because, to be honest, he was a little scared. Well, as he's running, he heard something behind him, something strange. He heard, hey, Bill, look at that. Hey, Bill, look at that. It sounded like his brother, but something sounded off. His voice sounded cold. Hey, Bill, look at that. There it was again, but closer this time. Something was strange. Something wasn't adding up. Bill thought, you know what? I'm going to see what my brother's pointing at. So he stopped running. He pulled out his flashlight. He turned it on, and he slowly looked behind him. And instead of seeing his brother, he saw eyes. But not eyes of a savage animal. Eyes 7 feet high, cold eyes. Before he could scream, he dropped his flashlight. Grandma and Grandpa were back at home, and Grandma had made their favorite dinner, shepherd's pie, and they were wondering where their boys were at because it was dark, and normally they're back by now. And they were talking amongst themselves, and they came to the conclusion, oh, I bet they just snuck in their room when we weren't paying attention, and they're just in there playing. So Grandma and Grandpa got up, and they walked towards their bedroom. And they got to the door, and they opened it up. And as they're looking in there, they noticed something was off. And then they figured out what it was. The curtain was blowing in the wind. And if the curtain was blowing in the wind, that means the window was open. And that means someone had opened the window. But they were so transfixed by the movement of the curtain, they were hypnotized. They couldn't look away. And then they heard a knock at the door. It scared Grandma and Grandpa for a second, and then they were relieved. They thought, oh, my boys are back. So they turned around and started walking towards the door. And as they're walking, they hear Ted and Bill. Hey, Bill, look at that. Hey, Bill, look at that. And, hey, Ted, we should probably head back before Grandma and Grandpa start to worry. And Grandpa was thinking, that sounds like my boys, but something sounds off. Their voice sounds cold. But she got to the door before she could think about it more. And Grandpa reached over, he unlocked the door, and he opened it up. And instead of seeing their two grandbabies, they saw eyes. But not eyes of a savage animal. Eyes 7 feet high, cold eyes. Thank you.
Oh, did that put a little chill in your soul? When you're out walking tonight, will you come across 7 feet cold eyes? Maybe so. A fine young writer and storyteller indeed. Next we have an 8-year-old young woman. She has a twin sister right here in the audience. She loves to read, and she read over 1,000 books before she even got to kindergarten. Yeah, I say so. She likes math and mental calculations. But she also likes to tell stories. She was at the Tampa Hillsborough Festival, which supports a lot of young storytellers. And so we invite Ahana Tawari to the stage. Check it. Is that going to be good for you?
Hello, my name is Ahana Tiwari, and today I will be telling the story of Little Rooster's Diamond Button by Margaret Reed MacDonald. And before we start the story, I have a humble request. When I do cock-a-doodle-doo, cock-a-doodle-doo in the story, please repeat with me. Somewhere, someplace across the 7 seas lived a good mistress and her little pet rooster. One day, little rooster went pecking for food. He pecked and pecked and pecked until he pecked up a diamond button. Cock-a-doodle-doo, cock-a-doodle-doo. I'll bring this diamond button to my good mistress. She likes diamond buttons. But just came the king. He wore such baggy trousers he could hardly even walk. When the king saw the diamond button, he wanted it. So he told his servants, "Snatch that diamond button from the little rooster. Put it in my treasure chamber." So the king's servants snatched that diamond button from little rooster and put it in the king's treasure chamber. But little rooster flew right to the king's palace and said, "Cock-a-doodle-doo, cock-a-doodle-doo, give me back my diamond button." The king was mad and said, "Throw that little rooster into a well. Get rid of him." So the king's servants threw little rooster into a well. But little rooster had a magic stomach, and he said, "Come on, my empty stomach. Come on, my empty stomach. Drink up all the water in the well." So little rooster drank up all the water in the well. Little rooster flew right back to the king's palace and said, "Cock-a-doodle-doo, cock-a-doodle-doo, give me back my diamond button." The king was angry and said, "Throw that little rooster into fire. Get rid of him." So the king's servants threw little rooster into a fire. But little rooster just said, "Come on, my full stomach. Come on, my full stomach. Spit out all the water from the well and put out the fire." So little rooster spit out all the water from the well and put out the fire. Little rooster flew right back to the king's palace and said, "Cock-a-doodle-doo, cock-a-doodle-doo, give me back my diamond button." The king was furious and said, "Throw that little rooster into a beehive. Get rid of him." So the king's servants threw little rooster into a beehive. But little rooster just said, "Come on, my empty stomach. Come on, my empty stomach. Eat up all the bees in the beehive." So little rooster ate up all the bees in the beehive. Buzz. Buzz. Little rooster flew right back to the king's palace and said, "Cock-a-doodle-doo, cock-a-doodle-doo, The king was infuriated and said, "What should I do with this little rooster?" The first servant said, "Hang him from a tree." The second servant said, "Toss him out the window." But the third servant said, "Why don't you sit on him and squash him?" "I like that idea," said the king. "Put him in my baggy pants." The king started to sit on Little Rooster, but Little Rooster just said, "Come on, my full stomach. Come on, my full stomach. Spit out all the bees from the beehive." So Little Rooster spit out all the bees from the beehive. Ouch, ouch, ouch! Those bees stung. "Let that little rooster have his diamond button. I never want to see him again." The king's servants took Little Rooster into the king's treasure chamber. Gasped Little Rooster. He had never seen so much treasure in his life before. Then Little Rooster said, "If this is all the treasure the king has been stealing from my village these years, I guess then, come on, my empty stomach. Come on, my empty stomach. Eat up all the treasure in the king's treasure chamber." So Little Rooster ate up all the treasure in the king's treasure chamber. Little Rooster flew right back to his home and said, "Cock-a-doodle-doo, cock-a-doodle-doo. Come on, my full stomach. Come on, my full stomach. Spit out all the treasure from the well." So Little Rooster spit out all the treasure from the king's treasure chamber. The treasure was enough for the whole village. And Little Rooster and his good mistress lived happily and richly ever after. The moral of the story is, if you're persistent, you can achieve anything. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope I see you next time.
Okay, that was an 8-year-old. We can all be humbled by the joy in her storytelling. It showed that she loved her story, and that is really a trick for a lot of storytellers. We have to love our stories. When we love our stories, we can play with the characters. When we love our stories, we can bring it alive for our audience. And when we love our story, it becomes part of our soul. And that is going to be a story she has forever in her life. Cock-a-doodle-doo. Awesome. You're going to go home and have that earworm in your head all night. Okay. Now, my challenge, though, is, can you retell some of these stories you have heard tonight? I bet you can. Now, when we come to our next storyteller, this is a girl who loves to be on the stage. Not only that, she said something wonderful about it. She's from Domerick Elementary. And she says storytelling helps her grow her reading and her performance skills. So she is a wise storyteller who already knows that. Welcome to the stage, Maddie Valenta. Let's check, sweetie. Is this good?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Maddie Valenta, and today I'm going to be telling you a story called The Viper. Do you like scary stories? The stories that build anticipation and make you worry about the dreaded outcome? Well, I hope so. Miss Peggy the Pig was cheerful, house-proud, and, well, of course, pink. She had polished hooves and had a perfectly twisted tail. She wore floral dresses and even kept a fresh bowl of fruit on the kitchen counter. You know the type, or, well, should I say, type A? That day, Miss Piggy was polishing an apple, preparing to eat it, I'm sure. The phone rang. She always liked to pick it up on the second ring to indicate her alertness.
Ring, ring. Hello, said Miss Peggy. A husky, dusky voice hissed. I am the viper. I will be there in 1 year. A viper? How odd. Miss Peggy simmered herself into a nice, hot, steamy bath to calm her concern. But months passed. Miss Peggy picnicked in the summer and ice skated in the winter. And she enjoyed all of her favorite activities, and also including baking cookies on Valentine's Day. But then the phone rang. Ring, ring. Hello, said Miss Peggy. A husky, dusky voice hissed. I am the viper. I will be there in 1 month. Miss Peggy sat down and reached for her calendar. Let's see. 30 days have September, April, June, and November. All of the rest have 31, except February, 28 or 29. How many days do I have left, and what is a viper anyway? She really had a twist in her tail now. She sat in her favorite high-back chair, ate a cup of tea on the kitchen counter, and had a dictionary in her lap to look up the word viper. Let's see. Violin. Oh, here it is. A viper. A fang poisonous snake. What? A fang poisonous snake will be calling me? Oh my gosh, I hate snakes! Miss Peggy that night put a dab of night cream to her snout and asked herself, why would a fang poisonous snake be calling me? She settled into bed, putting a hand-stitched comforter under her double chin. But when the phone rang, ring, ring. Hello, said Miss Peggy. A husky, dusky voice hissed. I am the viper. I will be there in 1 week. Also known as 7 days. Miss Peggy was awake. She trotted downstairs and asked herself, might as well have a little snack, and came out with a heavily frosted 4-layer cake. 7 days to go. But Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday were pretty quiet. She gathered wood for the fire, painted, and even went swimming. But then the phone rang. On Wednesday, ring, ring. I am the viper. I will be there in 3 days. On Thursday, I am the viper. I will be there in 2 days. But then on Friday, I am the viper. I will be there in 1 day. But then on Saturday, I am the viper. I will be there at 12 o'clock. But 12 o'clock, that's 1 hour from now. Miss Peggy suggested 2 options. Well, should she hide behind the door? Well, Miss Peggy was pretty heavy. Should she set a trap of Jarlsberg cheese? Of course, she's such a foodie. But a long, long hour passed. Should she hide, turn out the lights? But in the dark, she heard a creaking sound of the gate. Creak, creak, and a slithering sound, like someone was being dragged. Miss Peggy dared to look through the people, but there standing was a tall, hairy creature with sharp teeth. He was a very German shepherd, holding 2 things. 1, a hose long enough to tie someone up, and a cloth big enough to cover someone's face. Miss Peggy just had to find out why he was there. So then, when she opened the door, he said, I am the viper. I have come to wipe your windows.
Aren't we grateful for stories that have a little zing at the end, like a good joke. Well, our 6 wonderful Youthful Voices storytellers got a lot of help from their teachers. If you are one of the teachers or coaches for these children, please stand up. Thank you. It is because of those teachers that really helped them to become polished, and the parents. The parents, the grandparents, the brothers, the sisters, the dogs, the cats, who had to listen to those stories over and over again while they became polished. We are ever so grateful for all had a piece. And Glenda Ellis and I were lucky enough to be able to be the Youthful Voices coordinators this year and meet these children and be able to greet them and help them today in a workshop. But you know what? They came already. They came already. I would like to now invite our beautiful tellers and Miss Glenda Ellis up on the stage so that we can have some photo moments.
Sunshine, she's here. You can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Here come bad news, talking this and that. Give me all you got, don't hold it back. Well, I should probably warn you, I'll be just fine. No offense to you, don't waste your time. Here's why. Because